Hi, I'm George Gerbo, and welcome to Washington Times Weekly, where we get a chance to sit down with our reporters and talk about their coverage of the latest news and events. And joining me today is Washington Times politics reporter Tom Howell. Tom, it's good to see you.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. Let's get into some things surrounding tariffs and trade as it deals with President Trump and his recent increase on tariffs from India, which now raised the Indian rate to 50%, a whopping 50% on tariffs. And it comes as Narendra Modi, as you've written about, the Indian Prime Minister, has been maybe strengthening or enhancing his ties with Russia and Russian President Vladimir Putin over the last couple of weeks. India, the world's largest democracy, it's kind of trying to play both sides a little bit, have a foot and a strong relationship with the United States while also trying not to anger the neighbors that are in its backyard, it seems.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable. India is considered a very important strategic partner in the region, always seen as kind of a counterweight in the Indo-Pacific to China. But as President Trump is waging this aggressive trade agenda, imposing tariffs on different countries, he's looking at how other countries treat the U.S. while trying to tap into the rich American market. And he's saying, wait a second, I don't like what I'm seeing. India charges really high tariffs when we try to send our products to their country. So it started there. There's 25% tariff that he decided on. But then on top of that, he made a commitment to try to end the Ukraine war. He always talks about peace. And he sees India as a great subsidizer of Moscow and Russia and its invasion because it opted to get discounted oil from Russia during the invasion. They see that as propping up Putin's war machine. So he said, hey, I'm going to slap another 25% on you, bringing it to 50%. So really the relationship has deteriorated since then. And we saw Modi shifting the other way, hugging President Xi, hugging Vladimir Putin, and really pretty remarkable scenes at the recent summit.
And in that tariff vein, which has impacted nations all around the world that do trading with the United States, the European Union perhaps trying to shore up some of their income from trade, and that has forced them, has caused them to go and now try to strengthen relationships with Central America, with South America, with Brazil, specifically where it comes to wine. So French wines, German wines, very popular in the States and all across the country. Those could see higher costs as we move forward down this tariff road. And so the EU admitting as well in a recent piece that you wrote that they're not going to backfill the entire potential loss of the U.S. market due to higher tariffs, but strengthening relationships across borders with countries like Brazil and Mexico could help offset some of those losses, specifically when it comes to wine and alcohol sales.
Yeah, wine and alcohol are kind of interesting because they're very geographically specific. So when Trump imposes a tariff, he says, look, you can opt for an American-made product and you won't have to pay a tariff. And, there's a certain logic to that. It boosts domestic manufacturing. A lot of people feel that, the middle of America has been hollowed out by the lack of manufacturing. But when it comes to products like wine, maybe certain cheeses, they're linked to a geographic area. Parmigiano Reggiano is that thing from that part of Italy. Certain wines are from a certain corner of France, and it says so on the label. So it's kind of interesting. They're very popular here. And it's an interesting topic and one I like to write about because of that. And so these producers, they're saying, look, the rich American market is still important to us, but under the recent trade deal, there's a 15% tariff. It's not as bad as it might have been, but they're confronting that. And there already were underlying trends of people drinking less, so they have to kind of scramble a bit, right? They have to look to other markets, and those markets might be Brazil, Mexico, other parts of the Western Hemisphere. And so there's other separate trade deals going on between the bloc and parts of Latin America where they're saying, hey, maybe we can make some of our money back. We'll see what happens.
And as you mentioned in the story too, terroir, the term for the land, the soil, the environment that it comes from. Yes, California, you can replicate a lot of things in California. It's on that same kind of latitude as parts of Europe, but French wine is French wine. French grapes grown in France are different, are going to taste different than California grapes or Virginia grapes. And it's hard to kind of exactly replicate those styles.
Yeah, it's a good example of how things can get really complicated really fast with the pros and cons of an aggressive trade policy.
Let's wrap it up with a look at President Trump's ongoing battle that he's had against the Federal Reserve. He's targeted Jay Powell. The construction project ongoing at the Federal Reserve has been under the microscope of the administration. And now he and his administration have increased a push to try to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Her last tax documents showed that she had primary residences in 2 different states. And so that's been a cause of consternation for members of the Trump administration who've been trying to push her out, and for the president to get what he calls a majority on the Federal Reserve Board, which is a bit of an oxymoron, as the Fed prizes and stands by its independent monetary policy, believing that it should be independent of political whims and swaying trade. The president believes if he can get a majority of the people on the board appointed by him as governors, that then perhaps they would be more lenient or acquiesce to his demands to lower interest rates, which he believes would open up more economic spending and better housing opportunities for Americans. How close is this to becoming a reality, and how realistic is that push by the president and his administration?
Well, he's getting there. Another one of his nominees to fill a separate vacancy was just before the Senate a moment ago. With the GOP majority, he has a good chance of getting through and being confirmed to fill the rest of another governor's term. The Lisa Cook situation is very interesting. I mean, Trump has never been shy about letting institutions know what he thinks. He's often pushed for lower rates. I believe he did so in his first term as well. He's been badgering Chair Jerome Powell throughout the year for these, but he took it to another level when a housing regulator, someone who many people probably don't know, a guy named Bill Pulte, raised concerns about what's in her documents. It says pretty clearly that she cited a Michigan property as a primary residence, and then one in Georgia also as a primary residence in 2021. This is before she was confirmed to the Fed. And so they said, now, wait a minute, you can't have 2 primary homes at once. So it is kind of a problem for her. It's just that everyone else is saying, who's kidding who? We see what you're doing here. You're trying to get her out and get one of your people in. So it's gotten pretty messy pretty fast. It's before the courts now. Trump fired Lisa Cook, but she's still there. It seems as though everyone's kind of in a stasis pending the outcome of the lawsuit. Her lawyer says she had no intent to commit fraud, and when she was appointed and confirmed by the Senate, these, I think he called them facial inconsistencies in the documents were there, so they would have known about them. Problem for her, of course, is that she hasn't really fully explained exactly why they said what they did, so that might become a bigger problem for her down the road, might not. But we'll see how it shakes out.
A lot still to develop on that situation, and how Trump's push to remake the Fed, and how Trump's push to remake the Fed will perhaps sway the economy and sway different markets. Tom, appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
You can find all of Tom's work at WashingtonTimes.com and on social media. I'm George Gerbo. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.